going to present you the town of Dolores, Hidalgo. This is the person I choose to do my papers over, and this is who I'm going to be explaining within this presentation. Alright, in the first picture is of Claudia's father and his side of the family. They're standing in front of the tomb of Jose Alfredo. Alfredo? Is that how I said it? I'm not the best at pronouncing Spanish, so bear with me. This is a major historical marker within Dolores Hidalgo. A lot of people go to this monument because, like I said, it's very colorful and very noticeable, as well as, if you couldn't tell, there's a giant sombrero, and that's obviously an icon within the Hispanic culture. Claudia did mention that her dad and family on his side go to this monument usually once or twice a year, depending on what's going on in their family. They just feel like it's something that they can grow with as a family. Regarding the geographic location of Dolores Hidalgo, Mexico, it's basically in the central part of Mexico here, a little bit southernmost. Claudia did tell me it takes, whenever they drive from the Texas Panhandle where we live, it takes about 26 to 28 hours between stopping, sleeping, eating, going across the border, doing things like that, because obviously that is a process as well. Okay, and then here I'm going to kind of explain to you how I know Claudia and things like that. Claudia came to Wellington, a small town of the Texas Panhandle, like I stated before. Her parents came here in order for her and her two siblings, which both were older, to have a better education. Some of them, education within their area did not have the best education to provide, so they felt like going to our area was focused academically and within sports enough for them and what they were wanting. When Claudia came, everyone was excited because, you know, everyone likes the new kid and wants to know who they are, I guess. When Claudia came, she was 5 and I was 6, and we were in kindergarten, I believe. Claudia claimed that a lot of her clothing was pretty much Americanized whenever she was either here in Texas or if she was back home in Mexico. She said it wasn't too different. I mean, sometimes the colors were brighter in Mexico, which is a pretty common thing within that culture. Claudia, I got to know Claudia through school and stuff, and we got along really well, and we were always best friends for a long time, and we still are. We still talk to this day. She is right here in this picture, if you can tell or not, and I'll post this presentation along with this visual presentation so you're able to look at these pictures. But her dad ended up working for my dad here in town and did a lot of construction work and things like that. So we were associated a lot within sports, school, and then even outside of those two things, with our parents having work relations as well. Claudia and her family ended up having to go back to Mexico for a little while, so she did a lot of her major growth period during that time in Mexico, so that was another good reason I chose her, since she's had best of both worlds, I guess you could say. She was always super ambitious regarding sports or education or just volunteering or going to church within our community, and she was always there to kind of help better myself and each other at the same time. So, and then in regards to Mexico's education, specifically in Dolores Hidalgo, they were all in like this picture. Claudia's in the back and it's kind of hard to see, but she sent me this picture and I thought it was interesting because they all had to wear uniforms, and you know, for me, I don't know what that's like because I went to a public school where you could wear whatever you wanted. as long as it was under those regulations of, it being in dress code. Teachers actually did not support play within the school. They didn't have a lunch break, recess, things like that. They strictly focused on their main work and what they were doing in the classroom with the teacher and their classmates. They didn't have a whole lot of time to socialize as well, which I feel like is super important to have as a child, so you grow physically and developmentally to become who you are in the future. Claudia said that their teachers actually did promote working on their homework for at least 3 hours before they did absolutely anything, whether that be eating supper or doing anything with their family or going to work or whatever you had to do as a child. Yes, our teachers told us to study and whatnot, but I don't recall ever them saying, oh, you need to study for this amount of time in order to continue going to school and whatnot. And then regarding their play, whenever they were at home, since they weren't really allowed to at schools, it was unique in the fact of it was gender neutral, meaning that they were able to play with boys or girls at home or whatever that may be. I say this because I remember when we were small specifically, our teachers would tell us to go to lunch or to go to recess, like boys first or girls or vice versa. That's just kind of how it was, and obviously it became more of a mixture the older we got and the more mature we became. Claudia's parents were really hardworking, and they were supportive of her development, and they were aware of that, whether that was educational, socially, developmentally, you name it. They were always there for her and wanting to better herself so she can have a bright future and not have to work multiple jobs like they're having to do to provide for their family. Apparently teachers just didn't support the whole playtime at school because they valued education since a lot of parents were working multiple jobs, and they were requiring their children to go home and work or just not let their kids go to school at all. So they felt as if you were in the classroom, you needed to learn, which I understand that, but at some point you need to have your playtime in order to have development. And then here, like I was talking about, a lot of parents struggled financially in their household. They didn't have much income, and they tend to have several children, so the more children you have, the more it's going to cost. So, the parents might each have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs, but they would also require the children to work after they got off of school, or if they even let them attend school. For example, like in this first picture at the top, if you can tell, it's a goat, and Claudia said that was kind of their main, I guess, farming animal that they had. A lot of people around my area did cattle. Cattle's a huge thing, but they did goats a lot because they would either eat them for themselves at home or sell them, just whatever that may be. Here in this bottom picture, there's Claudia's aunt and her 2 sons, and what they're doing here is a farmer around Dolores, Hidalgo actually hired them as a family in order to pick their cotton. So she said that was not necessarily something they enjoyed doing, but it made good money for what they're used to. Here at the top, this is just a picture pulled off from the internet, but what it is it's a family, and they're hauling fruits and vegetables in buckets back to a trailer to the front of the field. She said it was always really hot in these months because it was usually June, July, August, probably more like July or August, whenever they were having to harvest these vegetables and fruits, and it just made for a really long day. And kind of that same concept right here in the bottom middle is this man and this woman are taking a little lunch break and getting a drink of water since they're working in that heat. And then in that far right, there's a family, and they're having to haul fruits and vegetables and different things of that sort on a mule to get it back to the front of the field. And then Claudia said while growing up they had several toys, but she just named a few specific ones. Here in this corner is a scooter, and I pulled this off the internet, and it's just a razor scooter. Claudia said that she was really surprised that whenever she came to Texas that a lot of these razor scooters were here, because that's what she grew up with over there, and that's what they used to get around, more than a bike, which I was kind of surprised by. Let's see. Then here in the middle, on the bottom, there's a picture from the internet as well, and this group of kiddos, they're playing freeze tag. And freeze tag is really just a game where you have a group of kids and someone is it, basically being the leader. And anyways, you tag someone and they have to freeze and be in a position with their legs apart and your hands up. And to be unfrozen, you have to have someone else that is not frozen by going underneath your legs, and then you're free once again. And the game just kind of continues to go on and on. In the bottom right, there's a picture of a Barbie. Claudia said that when they were indoors, they would play with Barbies and play dress up, play with toy soldiers with her brother if need be too as well. In the top right, there's a seesaw, and she said that was a big factor. It was a lot on their public playgrounds, and her dad actually made one very similar to this one in this top right to be put in their backyard at her grandparents' house, who she lived with as well. She played a lot of Mexican trained dominoes, which is basically you have a domino in the middle and then you have to have the same number to expand on the outside of that. And then here's Claudia. She's in this top left. Like I said, it's a little bit bright, so it's kind of hard to tell. But that's with their soccer team, and they did really well, and she traveled with it in Mexico. In this first picture, it's the street to her grandparents' house, which is where she lived as well. Her grandparents and her family lived there. The streets were always really bright, and you always saw people walking down the street selling fruits and veggies and all sorts of different things. The second picture is of her and her grandparents' house. And here is just kind of an iconic liberation type monument that they have in Dolores, Hidalgo. And then for the first concept, I believe it was kind of, well, Claudia agreed with me too, is that it was kind of like tabula rasa. Probably not saying that completely right, but you understand what I'm getting at. This is basically the idea of using complex ideas in sports or just playtime in general for kids to actually develop, and what this creates is problem-solving skills, independence, autonomy, socializing, and things like that as well. For another concept, there's a surplus energy. Like I said, I was always really active in sports, and Claudia was too in America as well as Mexico, but she helped me push to be better and be more active and be more athletic and those sort of things. She said she was the same way in Mexico, so we kind of agreed by using all of that energy into our sports and whatnot. It released that energy in order to perform at the level that we did. Here's the most recent picture of Claudia. This is a monument in Dolores, Hidalgo. It's actually called Dolores Hidalgo Pueblo Mágico, which is in downtown Dolores, and it basically freed their town from the rest of Mexico because they were under so much government rules and stuff that they were not able to function as they wished. She said her and her family go there and pray on every Saturday of the first of every month. That's something they've always done as a family, and they intend on doing, as long as they're all there. It's just something to be proud of and liberated for and to be thankful for. And then here's my references. Thank you for watching and listening to me, and have a great day.